Hey everybody, Dave here. Welcome back to Tundra Talk. Today we are going to break down some of the top prospects at the running back position for the draft here. I'm going to keep stressing this. This is one of the positions where the consensus top two for sure are going to be the same pretty much for everybody. But this draft, again, it's all about what is your flavor, what is your preference. There could be 100 different rankings for every single position in this draft class, depending on what you look for, all those different things. So, again, this is going to be such a fun class to go over. It's going to be a great draft to watch because who the heck knows? But again, we're right before the combine. The combine will be next week, if I'm not mistaken. So I'm going to really pound out probably 1 to 2 videos a day for the next couple of days here to get through all my top. So today we're going to do running back. I'll have another video on wide receivers, and then we'll go tight end, offensive line probably Saturday. And then Sunday, we're going to start breaking into the defense. But without further ado, just so we don't keep it too long, let's talk about my running backs. I do have 7. It was hard for me to try to get it down to 5 because this is a pretty deep class, and this class gives you a lot of different variants. So this is going to be interesting because my top 7 has 2 players from the same school, and we'll get into that shortly. So my first player, or my 7th rated player, is Roschon Johnson, running back from Texas. Bigger back, I believe he's at 6'2", 220. We'll see what he measures in at the combine. But he was kind of the Robin to the Bijan Robinson Batman. And spoiler alert, Bijan is number 1. He's a guy I feel like if he would have been the future back in a different program, he would probably be easily an early day 2 pick. You know, probably somewhere in that top 60 for sure. But he was kind of that secondary back. He's a bigger back, power back, does everything, pass blocks pretty well, I believe, as well. So Roschon Johnson, running back, Texas, is my number 7 player. I think he's a guy you can find day 3 of the draft that could come in and give you some special teams help, but he'll also be able to give you some of that power, and maybe you develop him into a really nice kind of power, short yardage type back. Second player, Kenny McIntosh, running back, Georgia, 6'1", 210. He's got the size to run between the tackles. Playing at Georgia, he's got a winning pedigree. Just a really consistent, all-around nice player here in Kenny McIntosh. He's a player, again, that you can find day 3 of this draft. And you could probably feel pretty comfortable that right away he could be your number 2 back. I mean, we look at the success out of some of these backs that have come out of Georgia, the Todd Gurley's, the Nick Chubbs. Even Sony Michel had a couple of really nice years. I think Kenny McIntosh is another player that you can get from Georgia, maybe round 4, round 5, that could come in and give you a nice, be a nice third back for you, maybe even second back if you definitely need it. So Kenny McIntosh, running back from Georgia, is my number 6. Going to number 5, now my 5 and 4 could be interchangeable a little bit. I have Tyjae Spears, running back from Tulane, a little bit smaller, 5'10", 190 pounds. But if you really put on the tape of what he did at the Senior Bowl, receiving out of the backfield, this guy is a weapon. He's a guy that you can definitely scheme, screens, bubble screens, those type of things. Get him moving here, get him out in space. This guy can make a lot of different plays for you. Really did a nice job at the Senior Bowl, especially catching the ball out of the backfield. And that is something that teams will covet. Now, the downside with him is his size. Because he is a little bit smaller, can you have him pass block on third down? Because pass protection for running backs is always a concern. Unlike the McIntoshes and the Roschon Johnsons, who got a little more size, who'll be able to hold up against some of those blitzers better, Tyjae Spears is someone that I do question whether he will be able to hold up. And that's why I do have him pulled back a little bit. I think he's got one really good attribute, which is his hands out of the backfield, some of the dynamic playmaking. But at the same time, I do question, I don't think he's an every down guy. So that's why I do have him pushed back just a little bit. He's kind of that fringe day 2, earlier day 3, kind of that, anything after pick 90, he could definitely be on the table, in my opinion. Again, you might disagree. Perfectly fine. The next player, Devon Achane from Texas A&M. Now here, 5'9", 190 pounds. This guy, if you want a home run freaking hitter, this is your guy. he is a guy that, from what I have heard and he expects to run right at that 4.3, if not sub 4.3 in the 40-yard dash at the combine. This is an explosive playmaker. You get him the ball out in space, and you might be looking at a cloud of dust right there. Again, the size is partially a little bit of why I don't have him rated a little higher. You'll see the guys that I have rated a little higher have a little more size to them. But right here, Devon Achane from Texas A&M is a guy that if you want that secondary back, that's that home run hitter, maybe even that kick punt returner as well, this is a guy that you definitely target. I have him as definitely a day 2 type guy, probably mid to late 3rd round. Just because I do question whether he's going to be able to hold up in pass protection, because that is so important, again, for so many teams, is what can you do pass protection wise. My number 3 player is going to be Zach Charbonnet, running back from UCLA. A little bit bigger player, 6'1", 220 pounds. He is your between the tackles type player. He is a guy that's going to lower his shoulder, get those nice tough yards. I think that there is some room and there is some untapped potential there for him to be able to catch the ball in the backfield a little bit. But this is going to be more of your prototypical kind of bell cow. You kind of run him between the tackles, wear down the defensive line a little bit. He is going to be a really nice player. I think he's a guy like, me being a Packer fan, you can use him a lot like an A.J. Dillon. Where if you have an Aaron Jones, more of that dynamic guy, right here is a perfect complement. Short yardage, goal line, let him just lower his shoulder, punch forward. So Zach Charbonnet, running back from UCLA, is my number 3 back in this class. Now again, up to this point, there could be 100 different orders as to how people rate it. I mean, Eric Gray could be in there from Oklahoma. He's more of a mid to late day 3 guy for me. But there's so many different running backs. I mean, I didn't even get into the Zach Evans from Ole Miss, so some people might blast me with that. You got Chase Brown from Illinois. So there's a lot of different guys here that I could have talked about. But these are just for what I look at. You see, I either have the bigger back that can run between the tackles to this point, or I got that smaller kind of dynamic playmaking back. There's very little at this point. There's not those guys that can kind of do both. So this is just, again, my flavor. I really do like Zach Charbonnet, and for me personally, if the Packers took him day 2 of the draft, would I be a little disappointed? Maybe, because you do have Jones and Dillon, but I would really like that pick because you're getting yourself a pretty good football player. And I've talked a little bit about as well with some of these guys is you just want to get good football players, and these guys all have one specific trait that can come in and really have an impact for you right away, and you can develop a little bit more as you go. So we're going to get into the final 2, and this will pretty much be the same for every single scout out there, every single draft analyst out there. Number 2 is going to be Jahmyr Gibbs from Alabama. Game-breaking threat, really good catching out of the backfield. He was showing at Alabama that he can run in between the tackles. I do question that just a little bit at the NFL level. He's 5'11", right around 200 pounds. So he does have a little bit more of a sturdy frame. But at 200 pounds, is he going to be able to kind of run up in there, 10, 15 times a game, along with getting them to the outside, catching out of the backfield? That is my one concern with Jahmyr Gibbs, is can he hold up between the tackles consistently on a down in, down out basis, or can he hold up? I don't know, but I know that this guy, you get the ball in his hands, he's a polished receiving back. He can lower his shoulder, inflict some punishment. He can break away from you. Really good hands, really good football player. Again, if the Packers took him day 2 of the draft, he's kind of that fringe day 1, early day 2 type guy. I would absolutely love it because he's going to be a playmaker for you going forward. So Jahmyr Gibbs, running back from Alabama at 5'11", about 200 pounds, is my number 2 back. Really good player. His tape is so much fun to watch. So if you haven't looked at it yet, go back and watch it. And then number 1 should be no surprise, Bijan Robinson. This guy is one of the few blue chip players in this draft. If you listen to guys like Mike Renner, I believe Dane Brugler, other major draft analysts, they will say a lot of the same things. Bijan Robinson is one of the blue chip players in this draft. You have the Jalen Carters, the Will Andersons, Bijan Robinson. And there's going to be a lot of debate after that as if there are any more blue chip players. Bijan, 6 feet, 220. If you want somebody who's going to be Saquon Barkley, this is your player, Bijan Robinson, right here. He can pound the ball between the tackles. He's shifty. He's got really nice jump cuts. He's a guy that if you just turn on the tape, you'll just sit back and just be like, damn, that's a ball player. Because he can find holes. He can sift through the garbage, and all of a sudden he squeaks out the other end. He also can catch the ball out of the backfield really well. This is a complete running back. And again, as a Packer fan, if the Packers did not redo that contract with Aaron Jones, I was all about if they took Bijan Robinson at 15, I would have been happy. This is a player that I don't care. I know he's not going to go top 5, but like a team like Atlanta for me at pick 8, if they took Bijan Robinson, that would be a perfect fit for what Arthur Smith wants to do. You know, the Philadelphia Eagles, if they lose Miles Sanders, boom, Bijan Robinson right there steps in. Him and Jalen Hurts is a nice 1-2 punch. But Bijan Robinson's a guy that you can take, and you know for the next 6 to 7 years, you're going to get a guy that's going to give you probably somewhere between that 14 to 1,600 all-purpose yards, 10 touchdowns. You can book it. This is about as sure of a bet at running back as you can get in this day and age. He's a much better prospect than one Najee Harris, Travis Etienne, any of the running backs last year. This guy is a step above. Like I said, we haven't seen a player at the position like him since Saquon Barkley. So again, just a quick breakdown. Again, my 7th rated running back, Roschon Johnson, running back, Texas. Kenny McIntosh at 6, running back from Georgia. Tyjae Spears, running back from Tulane, is my number 5. Devon Achane from Texas A&M is my number 4 running back. Zach Charbonnet from UCLA is my number 3. Jahmyr Gibbs is number 2. And of course, the man, the myth, the legend, Bijan Robinson is my number 1 running back available. Again, so look for later on, I will be releasing my top wide receiver rankings as well. This one's going to be harder to break down. There's going to be a little bit more than just 5, but definitely tune in. As always, make sure you subscribe, comment, like this video. We can have that nice little back and forth. If you disagree with something that I'm talking about, let's talk about it. Let's have a little bit of fun with it. So again, as always, Dave here from Tundra Talk. Have yourself a great day, and we'll talk again very, very soon.